Thank you very much, everyone. They don't call it beautiful British Columbia for nothing. It is great to be back in the Okanagan. I think it's my favorite place in the world, actually. Brings back so many memories of camping trips we used to do. As you know, I'm an Albertan, and we are that alien species that comes and invades your province every summer and every winter. We spend a lot of money here, which is good. But you don't see us as much in the shoulder seasons normally. So it's nice to be here any time of the year. And it's great to be with Helena Conans and the great Dan Albus. Dan, of course, is obviously a great businessman and a father. He was also playing very important roles in our shadow cabinet, a very intelligent guy. And he also has black belts in Wing Chun Kung Fu, I think, and he teaches Muay Thai as well. So, but he's a gentle giant, fear not. You know, it brings back so many memories to be here. My folks used to take me camping here, and we used to have a lot of fun enjoying the lakes and enjoying all the great people in this region. So I think it's one of the most entrepreneurial places in the world as well. And it's a great Canadian history. Not far down the road from here is the old train station that connected the Canadian Pacific Railway. The great steel ribbon that united our country, Atlantic to Pacific, that was, of course, the dream of John A. Macdonald, to have independence from the United States by binding the nation together east to west. And during the campaign, though, people look at projects like the Canadian Pacific Railway. I think people say, they've been saying to me, do you think we could build that today? You know, with all the delays and the bureaucracy and the radical environmental agenda of Mr. Carney's minister, Stephen Guilbeault. It's a guy who actually thinks we should stop building roads, who climbed up the CN Tower and crawled onto the roof of the Premier of Alberta to block energy development. And he's in Carney's cabinet today, responsible for all of Quebec and for Parks Canada. If you think anything is going to get built under these Liberals, then you haven't been following the last lost Liberal decade, where they have driven $500 billion of investment out of our country, killed key pipeline projects, effectively banned any major resource projects from going ahead, and now they want to keep in place C-69, the anti-pipeline, anti-development law that will ensure we are forever dependent on the Americans. What's worse is that bureaucracy and red tape has grown on our small businesses. Today, the federal government imposes 149,000 individual rules on our small businesses. That's 20,000 more than there were a decade ago before the lost Liberal decade. The burden is staggering, $51 billion of administrative costs on small businesses alone due to federal red tape. And that doesn't even account the damage done by the big anti-development laws Liberals have brought in. This, of course, has been great news for President Trump, who wants to steal our jobs and opportunities, and that's why more and more money is moving south, jobs, resources along with it. The last real attempt by a federal government to cut red tape was in the 2012 passage of the Red Tape Reduction Act by the Conservative government. And the law had a very simple principle. Every new regulation had to be met with eliminating an old one. So that law is still in place. You might ask then, how is it that the Liberals have been able to increase regulations and red tape by 15%? Well, the reason is the Liberals have been cooking the books. Instead of reducing the number of regulatory requirements, they have reduced the number of regulatory titles. So it's like gluing all your books together and saying that you've reduced the number of books, but you might actually have even more pages if you've added more books into the newly glued collection. And today, we have more individual rules and regulations, just with fewer titles. So they've gone around the law in order to impose more burden on our small businesses, driving investment, jobs, and opportunity away at a time when we are more vulnerable than ever before. And that is why today I'm announcing that we will deliver change. You know, after 10 years of Liberals, we can't give them a fourth term. We need a new Conservative government that will put Canadian small business and workers first for a change. I'm announcing that a Conservative government will cut red tape by 25% over the next 2 years. We'll impose a 2-for-1 rule, which means every new regulation or rule will have to be matched with eliminating 2 existing ones. And we will do the same with dollar value. Every $1 increase in the administrative burden of the federal government will have to be matched with $2 of reductions elsewhere. And finally, to make sure there are no more tricks like the Liberals have played to get around this rule, we'll give a legal mandate to the Auditor General to audit every year the administrative burden to ensure that these rules are being honored. This will force the senior bureaucracy to constantly comb through the rules, get rid of unnecessary and useless regulations, and find the most efficient way to protect public safety and the environment. There are expensive and bureaucratic ways that involve lots of paper, and there are ways that you can do more efficiently. And I'll give you an example. When they had the Great Global Recession, the Harper government made the decision that we would fund municipal projects using a 1-page application form, 1 page. And there would be 1 environmental review per project, not 7 or 8. Now everyone screamed and said, well, this is going to harm safety and the environment. Well, we completed 23,500 projects in 2 years without 1 public safety problem or 1 environmental problem identified by the Environment Commissioner. That proves you can protect safety and the environment with less bureaucracy. In other words, stop stopping and start starting. Mark Carney and his team of Trudeau Liberals want you to forget. They want you to forget the 10 years of growing bureaucracy and shrinking wages, the anti-development and anti-growth policies. They want you to think that somehow they will be different than they were in the last 3 terms. Now, I can't help but notice that Mr. Carney is contradicting himself again today as he plagiarizes my latest policy. On April the 1st, just 4 or 5 days ago, his government got rid of the apprenticeship grant. And today, after seeing that I support the grant and I'll bring it back, he's trying to plagiarize me yet again. You can't believe anything he says when he does one thing on April Fool's Day, and then not even a week later, he says the opposite. He is just like Justin Trudeau, and there will be no change if you give Liberals a 4th term. I have announced a real plan for our apprentices. We will train up 350,000 of them. We'll bring back the apprenticeship grant Conservatives originally introduced and that Liberals have eliminated. And we will stand up for workers across this country. Now, the reality is that Mr. Carney represents the same Liberal record of the last 10 years. He was Trudeau's economic advisor. He has the Liberal ministers, MPs, strategists, and he's now repeating the same broken Liberal promises. The most powerful thing that we can do to break free from dependence on the Americans is to unleash the power of our resources, entrepreneurs, and workers. That starts by repealing the anti-development, anti-pipeline law C-69, a law that Mark Carney announced the other day he will keep in place. A resume is not a plan, nor is keeping the same Liberal policies that got us in this mess in the first place. A 4th Liberal term will only strengthen the Americans and weaken Canada. We need a new Conservative government that will put Canada first for a change. My plan will unleash industry to make us strong, self-reliant, so we can stand on our own 2 feet and stand up to President Trump. Only a Conservative government will bring in a reinvestment, Canada First reinvestment tax cut, 0 capital gains tax on anything you reinvest in the Canadian economy. This will be economic rocket fuel, especially in the Okanagan, where you've got so many realtors, small businesses, entrepreneurs who will bring their money home and unlock incredible opportunities for this beautiful free enterprise area of our country. We will also cut income taxes by 15% so that hard work pays off and you bring home more of each dollar you earn. We'll take the GST, the federal sales tax, off new homes to save you up to $65,000 on a purchase and boost home building by 30,000 units every year. We'll take the GST off Canadian-made cars to boost demand and support our auto workers. In other words, bring it home. We will repeal all the anti-energy laws and rapidly approve LNG plants, 6 months approval times. We could have enormous $10 and $15 billion projects dotting all along the west coast of British Columbia, unlocking enormous paychecks for our tradespeople and our First Nations communities. This can only happen with a new government. The current Liberal government will stand in the way. That is why President Trump has said it is easier to deal with the Liberals. He wants to keep our resources under his control and our investment in his economy. I want the opposite. I want to bring it home. So the choice is clear. After the lost Liberal decade, we can't afford a fourth term of costs and crime up and the economy down under Trump's thumb. We need a new Conservative government that will unleash our resources, cut our taxes, and bring home our jobs so we can stand up to the Americans from a position of strength. It's time for a new Conservative government that will put this country first and restore the Canadian promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a great life in a safe and affordable home on a beautiful Canadian street under our wonderful Canadian flag. Canada first. For a change. Let's bring it home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now take a question from the phone line.
Thank you. Your question comes from the line of Victor Hansen from Castanet. Please go ahead.
Hi there. You're cutting out a bit, so I hope this question comes through. This is Nick at Castanet. Thank you, Mr. Poilievre. We've talked to local wineries here in the Okanagan who are struggling with interprovincial taxes that are making it easier to sell products actually south of the border rather than to our neighbors to the east. This is largely a provincial issue, but I'm just wondering, would a Conservative government step in and try to break down these interprovincial trade barriers?
Yes, we would. And, you know, it's terrible that after this lost Liberal decade, it's harder than ever to sell goods and services across interprovincial boundaries. We need true pan-Canadian free trade, one single free market, coast to coast, so that anyone in Canada can buy any product from Canada. And that is our agenda, to unleash a free enterprise, nationwide economy, so we're less dependent on the Americans and we can stand on our own 2 feet. But I want to give my friend Dan Elbis, who's been Canada's leading voice for free trade in wine, spirits, and I think beers as well, a chance to address your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre, and thank you, Nick. This is an issue that has been affecting Okanagan wineries particularly. What they see right now is that they have politicians that say they support interprovincial barriers coming down, but they don't see any real change because these liquor monopolies that are acting as gatekeepers on our economy are expressly raising their fees multiple times because the biggest issue for a winery is they need to get better market access. So when you try to send a bottle of wine from British Columbia to another province, and both the liquor monopoly in British Columbia and in that host province that's going to take in the wine raise up the fees, where a bottle of wine that may be worth $25, $45 suddenly costs upwards of $100 with shipping, it's impractical. So we need to have a Conservative government that looks at red tape, works with provinces to bring down the costs so that our vintners, our cideries, our craft brewers and artisan distillers can actually have true free trade in Canada. Pierre knows this issue extremely well.
And you got your bill as well.
Yes.
You bills.
Yes, we had a bill passed in 2012, but again, some provinces play the game in regulations and red tape that makes it difficult. That's why having a Conservative government that makes red tape reduction a priority and works with provinces to not allow these gatekeepers to deny our BC vintners the ability. It's crazy that Ron Kubek from Lightning Winery has to send his wine to the United States because it's easier to do business there. So, Pierre, I look forward to you being Prime Minister so you can help our BC vintners to be able to get a fair shake.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you.